Nice to be back in the United States and be able to spend this day with other veterans, being able to commemorate this special day for veterans where we remember the fallen.
Right, and today, part of the reason why Hector's here today is because he did receive an award from a couple of organizations. Somos Independence, a Mexican-American woman-led organization, as well as the American Legion Post Number 41, which is the largest veteran organization in the state of Arizona. So the reason why I believe Hector should be recognized is because when he was in Tijuana, he did have to deal with some veterans who served our United States military, and some of them would die beyond the borders. And Hector's role with regard to his foundation was to help relatives and families of deported veterans, and he would coordinate with regard to, you know, their ashes being brought back to the United States. And Hector also, with regard to the living veterans that needed medical attention, his role in that, if you could elaborate, what was your role in helping some of the veterans deported that needed medical attention?
Sure, sometimes we would find them volunteer doctors, but also we were able to file for their VA benefits and get them certain, depends on what kind of disability rating, they would get certain limited health care, but it's something. And also their VA benefits, we've been able to connect them with attorneys through the ACLU. Some of the men have gone home. We just had a Marine go home not too long ago, actually 2 Marines last year. And we're, you know, just been, it's been wonderful to be able to help these men out. We work with them with housing, find volunteer counselors, sometimes help them find job placement, dispense us sometimes just basic needs like, you know, some hygiene kits or, you know, some food if we have some. So we've been able to provide a level of support, but also I think the most important thing is giving them hope that, you know, if I can come home or if others can come home, eventually things will change. That we've had 2 congressional visits, and that's been, you know, that's huge. You know, yeah. It's very rare that that ever happens, and that happened in Mexico. So we're getting the attention of legislators all the way to Mexico, and hopefully we can get the laws changed. And again, this is one of the things I want to point out. This is not just specific to Mexicanos, but we have veterans being deported to a dozen countries, but most of them being Hispanic.
Right. Tell us about your foundation. What are the needs that you want from the audience? What do you need help on with regard to the continued work that you began in Tijuana? Now that you're living in the United States, I know you're going to be going back and forth, but what do you need from the audience?
Sure. One of the biggest things we want to do is we want to bring these people home. So we need you to call your legislators, your congressmen. We need to get these political people involved so they can change the law so we can get them home. And then the other one is, of course, we want to continue to keep our doors open. So any kind of donations are welcome. And my job for the next year is to fundraise, to work on the nonprofit, and to continue this organization so that whether I'm here or over there or if I'm not there, that it can continue. Of course, I'm going to always be involved to a certain degree because I want to get my life back together. But yeah, we want to make sure that our men and women are taken care of.
Now, one of the things that Hector, I know that he has, part of his work was to work with 300 members or their families from different parts of the world. So this is not just a Mexican issue. Tell us more about some of the veterans that you've served from different parts of the world, how you've helped them by giving them information and so forth.
Sure. So one of the things that, like I said, with most of the people, when you think of immigration or deportation, you think of, you know, Hispanos or Mexicans, but we have people deported to Canada, to Italy, all these different places. One of the things that we're actually going to do is next month we're going to Dominican Republic to organize some of the men down there. But we had another guy from Belize come down. He came all the way from Belize to Tijuana just so we can help him with his VA benefits.
Wow.
And it turns out he's actually eligible for citizenship.
Oh, wow.
So we're working with the ACLU, and hopefully he'll be able to obtain citizenship. But we're also able to get other veterans their VA benefits, sometimes just something simple by just connecting them with somebody that's in that country in a similar situation.
Oh, wow.
And family members will call us sometimes and they'll ask for help, or try to connect them with attorneys. So there's certain things that we can do with other veterans that are in other countries and family members that are left behind.
Now, one of the stories that he told me recently is there is a 73-year-old veteran who got deported. We're still unsure on the details with regard to that specific case, but we're talking about a 73-year-old man. And I know that Hector is working with this family and his relatives because, I mean, literally, I mean, can you imagine, you know, this man who was providing care for his, you know, helping his daughter raise kids. Can you tell us a little bit about him being the oldest?
Sure. Well, we've had people deported at the age of 60 or some that are already in their 70s because they've been here so long. But I've never had somebody deported at, I mean, 73 is like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just doesn't make sense. We're still trying to figure out, of course, why, but that's part of our work. He's only been deported for a couple of days, so we're going to work on getting his legal paperwork to see why he got deported, more details on that, get his military service. But basically everything kind of pans out as far as his military service, and it doesn't make sense to deport somebody at that age. Unfortunately, once you get deported, you lose your Social Security benefits. So he basically doesn't have any income except for what his family kind of provides. And also, he looked for us for 2 days in Rosarito because we originally started over there. If he hadn't found the Deported Veteran Support House, he might be in the streets, you know, with nowhere to go. So thanks to the people that keep supporting our cause, we're able to provide the housing for him at this moment.
Pobrecito. In light of it being Memorial Day, do you recall some of the fallen? You know, I know that you had sort of a shrine with the cross and some of the dog tags, and I remember that some of those people were died beyond the borders. Is there a couple of them that you want to remember today in light of?
Sure. One of the recent passings that we had was Enrique Salas. He was always committed to coming into the office whenever we needed him for interviews and stuff like that, and he actually was in some type of process with some attorneys working on his case, and basically he was in a car accident and he passed away. So it was just very sad to be. I was present at the funeral. It was very sad to see that once he was home, he was basically honored by the United States government because he was able to get a full military service, and it was just sad to say, okay, well, welcome, or the acknowledgement of his service now that he's gone. And that's, you know, that's just one case of many. Sometimes it's the ashes that are brought home because of the economic situation of the family, but it's very tough on the families. It's very difficult for some of the men as well. And hopefully, you know, we can change these laws so that this isn't the only way that they can come home. My particular case, I was able to come home, and, you know, basically it was, you know, in a sense it's a miracle, but there are legal ways to be able to get certain people home because every case is different. But in general, we're trying to work on bringing everybody home, and that's what we're working on with the legislators.
Enrique, did he die in a car accident in Mexico, or?
Yes, he was involved in a car accident.
Wow. And so his body, I mean, was it that his ashes were brought back to the United States, or was it actually his body?
His family was able to get a humanitarian parole, and they were able to take him to San Diego, and then unfortunately,
oh, he passed away.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
No. Wow.
So, you know, it's very sad that this is the only way that our men and women can return, and we want to change those things. I believe that our commitment to our veterans should be more than support the troops, or you know, it's beyond just you know, the Veterans Day and the wave flagging. There's people that are homeless. You know, there's people that are taking their lives. There's people that end up incarcerated, people that get into trouble. And regardless of that, you know, they let them do their time, let them go to the rehab centers and get themselves figured out. And if they have issues, and they will have, some of them will continue to have issues due to their PTSD, they're still our veterans, you know, regardless of that. So we need to take care of them.
Right. And one of the things that that when we went to the Post Legion number 41 here in Arizona, which is the largest Hispanic veteran organization in the state of Arizona, one of the resolutions that they read was that, you know, when a person serves our United States military, that should be automatic American citizenship right there, especially if they're immigrants who are serving in our armed forces. What are your opinions on that?
What's one of the things that we want to change as well in legislation, or that there's either a program or that it's automatic, and hopefully with more momentum and more resolutions and more pushing some of these bills that have been introduced by different legislators, we can get that changed. Most of these guys, they believe they're Americans. They grew up as Americans. The only difference is that they don't, have that title or that, that paper that says they're U.S. citizens. And one of the odd things about it is, so when you swear to become a naturalized citizen, the oath is similar to when you join the military. And what we do is we actually put our oath into action by serving. And some people that are naturalized probably never, they're never going to defend their country. They're never going to put their life on the line. Right. And that's okay, but we actually did that, and I think that should be taken into account. Now,
tell us about what you did in the Army.
Sure. Well, I worked as the patient administration. I was with the 82nd Airborne. So in the 82nd, I did more field work and going to airborne operations and going to the field. I didn't have a chance to deploy, but we were always ready, able, and willing, and we put our life on the line numerous times, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes, as we say. And then after my service in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I ended up at a hospital where I actually did my job, ER admissions, medevacs, and did all these different administrative duties. So I enjoyed my service. I'm very proud of it. I'm not proud of what the circumstances that got me deported. And I thought most of the veterans are going to tell you, you know what, yeah, I screwed up. But we're proud of our service. And in my particular case, I'm proud of my advocacy today and the work that we're able to do for our veterans through everybody's support, because I can't do it alone.
What year to what year did you?
So I served from 1995 through 2001, 2 enlistments.
Okay. So you were in the military during United States wars?
Yes, I'm considered a wartime veteran because of my service during 9/11. And that's one of the key things that actually helped me out for my naturalization. Is one of the things that happens for people that serve during wartime services, you can become a naturalized citizen, and it doesn't say whether you have to have a green card or any legal status. So that's why I was able to apply in Mexico. And
repeat that again in case there are veterans out there that have been deported in other parts of the world and who are listening to this broadcast. One of the things that helped you was the fact that you served during wartime.
Sure. So for wartime era veterans, you don't have to necessarily be in combat. If you don't have an aggravated felony, honorable discharge, and good moral character, you can become a naturalized citizen. And we're kind of helping a couple other guys out and working on pardons to get rid of that criminal conviction. Also, for the people that are in, it's very important to educate our soldiers that you got to apply. It's not automatic. If the recruiter told you it is, it's not. And if you haven't done it, take that personal responsibility and go out there and start the paperwork. And for those that are leaders, squad leaders, commanders, make sure that you take care of your troops, because you might have somebody that's not a U.S. citizen, and we need to make sure that they're squared away. That's part of taking care of our soldiers. Some people say we don't hold your hands, but yeah, in the military we show you how to lace your boots, how to march, and we do, in a sense, hold your hand. But also it's just making sure that we take care of our troops and they're also deployable.
Okay. Well, our producer Osvaldo is going to take us on a quick 1-minute break, and we will be back on the Tequila Onda show with special guest Hector Barajas-Varela. Stay tuned.
Hola, estamos ayudando a muchas personas. Somos All in All Documents, una oficina multiservicios. Nuestros principales servicios son taxes, notario móvil, administración y registro de tu negocio. Además, oficiamos tu boda civil. Siempre lo más importante son nuestros clientes. Deja tus preocupaciones en nuestras manos, nosotras te ayudamos.
En Quantum Emotional Crossover creemos que tú puedes tener una vida ilimitada, un nuevo horizonte, una nueva manera de vivir en gozo y abundancia. ¿Qué requieres transformar para poder experimentar y expresar todo quien tú eres? ¿Cómo puedes participar como protagonista activo en el nuevo modelo del mundo que se está gestando?
Oh, hi, welcome back to the Tequila Onda radio show. I am with veteran Hector Barajas-Varela, who was a deported veteran, and he was recently pardoned by the California governor. several people, including immigration lawyers, said that it couldn't be done, but here's a living miracle. And one lady called you a milagro, didn't she?
Yeah, today we were able to meet with a lot of different people, and we had breakfast with the Gold Star mothers, and basically, you know, it really is, you know, there was a lot of work, obviously, that, you know, there was behind my attorneys, the ACLU, Nathan Fletcher, all the wonderful people, the governor taking the chance, but, you know, it basically took a lot of hard work, and, you know, I feel that in a sense it was a miracle that it happened, but a lot of hard work, and it's nice to be home, and hopefully that this can open up more doors for other men and women.
And if the California governor, I know he's not going to be running again, right?
Yes, so it's basically it's his last term as far as we know. So we're going to try to work on hopefully introducing more pardons, and regardless of whether it's through this governor, we can still work on the next governor and, you know, whoever is in. So we'll see what happens.
So what would you like to say to the governor?
Well, I want to thank the governor, first of all, for giving me the opportunity to be a father for the second time, for one more time, for a second time.
Second chance.
Second chance.
Wait,
yeah.
are you expecting?
And so it's you know, it's important. I think one of the most important things that most deportees or veterans is the families that we leave behind, the children, the wives, our parents, and so the opportunity to be a father for the second, you know, basically I was torn, you know, I was taken away from my family. So in the sense that it is a second opportunity. And it's nice to be home and to be with my parents, to be at the family events, and to be able to also be at these special events like Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and to be able to either celebrate the 4th of July or also commemorate a very important day that's Memorial Day for veterans, you know, that we remember our fallen brothers and sisters.
Right, and there were some people at the American Legion that did hear about your story, but there are, you know, a couple of ladies who didn't hear about your story. So, you know, it's really good to continue to create awareness. How can a person find your cause on social media, and how can they get a hold of you to donate money to those who?
Sure. So they can find us on Deported Veterans Support House.org, Deported Veterans Support House, or they can contact DeeDee directly. And basically, you know, there's a lot of different things where you can help out. Sometimes just sharing the information, sharing our Facebook posts is important because you never know who it's going to reach. We connected today with one of my brothers that I served with it's been almost 20 years ago. And we connected
Michael Nunez.
Yeah, we connected through DeeDee. So again, that's through social media. So you never know how the connections or posts might go. But again, there's one of the things that's very important in general, where if you want to get things changed, there's a saying, actions lead us to change. And it's very important that we put action into everything we do. So the Facebook posts are great and all that, but let's call our legislators. Let's, you know, get in there and start lobbying. And that's what, you know, that's one of the things that helps get these changes.
And Hector and I were talking, you know, voting really is our true weapon, and there's no excuse if you're an American citizen and you're able to vote. We need to be a voice for those who can't vote, who to promote immigration reform, to bring back veterans who served our nation's military, you know, and to lobby for immigrant soldiers to have automatic citizenship when they serve our nation's military. I want to go a little bit personal with Hector. About a year ago, you know, it had been 14 years with Hector living in Mexico, and you know, he was just really struggling with the fact that he was separated from his daughter. And let's go emotional. Let's what inspiration can you give deported veterans? What message do you want to give them? What helped you through these 14 years?
Sure. So one of the things that helped me out is my faith, but also to, you know, you got to have have a purpose in life, which is my purpose or my mission was to get home to my family, and that helped me to continue to move forward, regardless of the bad days. And yeah, there's times that we go through difficult times. Also, one of the things that we want to point out is the deportation does not end your life. You can be miserable here and you can be miserable in the United States. So it's also attitude. So get involved, whether it's through our cause or, just yourself maybe, or your family. Find something that gives you meaning and purpose. And for veterans, sometimes we need a mission. And this was my mission. It kept me focused. And I've had bad days. I lived on the streets, for a couple months, and I've gone through the depressions and all these things. But you got to have something that just will eventually just keep driving you and pushing you forward. And a lot of it is also the support that I've had. I've had a really good support system, a lot of good people that have followed and supported me over the years and through even my good times and my bad times.
Yeah. What are you going to continue to do now that you're back in the United States? Well, wait, before we go there, what was it like coming back to the United States? What was that first night like? I mean, did you have to pinch yourself? I mean...
It's, I slept really, it felt really peaceful to just be at home. There are days when you're like, is this real? Like my case is not a simple case, so it's very, sometimes it seems surreal, and it doesn't seem like it's true. And, it's kind of like I find myself, while we pulled it off, it's but it's nice to be home. And, I don't know, it's just an incredible feeling to be home with my family.
When we were driving around to the Arizona, we were going to the Arizona Military Museum and just sort of driving around from point A to point B. I could just, he's just a different person. You're a different person than before when I talked to you on the phone, and you could just feel the heaviness in your voice, like last year. But this year you're just happy, and, it's great to see you that way.
It's nice, and one of the things that I want to continue to do is my work to make sure that the doors stay open. So my mission for the next year is to work in the nonprofit, do some fundraising, make sure that the doors stay open so that we can hire somebody, and at the very least make sure that, again, the doors stay open in the office and the apartment that we're going to have for the guys, and to continue this work. I eventually want to maybe go to school. Definitely need a job to pay the bills, and it's expensive over here. And just get my life back together. But definitely will always be involved to some level of commitment. I'll continue to work with the deported veterans and immigration, also with veterans issues.
Now, the Dominican Republic, you're going to be going there next month?
Yes, we already have our plane tickets from June 19th through July 3rd.
Okay. And what are you going to be doing there specifically?
Basically, what we're going to do is there's a couple of countries where there's a large population of veterans. So Dominican Republic is one of them. We're going to help them file for their VA benefits. Try to organize them. We're gonna work on that and see how it goes. Connect them with the attorneys. Take them a computer. Help them file all the forms necessary to file for their medical records, their VA benefits. Connect them to CalVet. So there's all these different things that we're doing, and also tell their story. So we're actually going to go with some people that are going to be a documentary crew, and also just to interview and record some of their personal stories as well.
Why is the DR? Why is it one of the countries with the highest populated deported veterans?
So we're not sure exactly why. There's certain countries there's more deported veterans. I know Mexico obviously is one of them. And then we have Dominican Republic, Jamaicans, and Canadians.
But why the DR? What's your gut?
One of the things that I kind of see, the only pattern that I see is a lot of the veterans that are being deported are actually from immigrant communities, but also from like the New York Cities, the LAs, and so most of the immigrants communities that you find there are like Dominicans, Jamaicans, or so that's kind of like the only pattern that I see, and
from the larger metropolitan areas.
Yeah, from the larger metropolitan areas.
Okay.
So, and for one of the things I see is that when some of these veterans return, they basically go back to the same environments that have lack of resources, and probably end up in the same environments that they were trying to get away from, and end up catching convictions. We want to point out that the reason most of the veterans get deported because of some type of criminal conviction. It varies from person to person. It could be a small amount of drugs, a couple of DUIs, to something larger, or domestic violence. So it varies from person to person. We don't condone criminal activity. We believe you should do the time, We now have veterans courts, so sometimes now instead of going to jail, you actually get treatment. Obviously, if you get caught 2 or 3 times, then there's, obviously there's, it's time for you to maybe go away for a while. But still, not deportation. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, and again, let's, on that note, again, I believe that people who serve our military, who are willing to put their lives on the line, defending this nation, should receive automatic citizenship. PTSD, one of the issues that Hector has come across with regard to the Tijuana mission that he helped, that he founded in Tijuana, several have some mental issues, PTSD. Can you elaborate on that, how you've helped give those, veterans some help?
Sure. One of the things that I see with a lot of our combat veterans is they come back from, whether it's Afghanistan or Vietnam, and they suffer from PTSD. Sometimes they turn to drugs or alcohol, maybe even just violence. They're more prone to being violent. So there's a lot of things that happen to them when they come back, and they cope. Some cope differently, and unfortunately, that sometimes leads them into getting in some type of trouble or running with the law, and then that's why they get deported. So one of the things that we've been able to do is find volunteer attorneys. We've been also able to get them their disability ratings, so volunteer counselors. I take that back. No.
There are volunteer counselors. Yeah. Now, how do you help the deported veterans get benefits if they apply? Can you just kind of touch on that a little bit?
Before we started our work, most of the veterans that we have identified weren't getting any VA benefits, but there was a lack of communication with the VA, and there was also lack of communication on basically the veterans on who they needed to connect with, how to file also. Some of them men didn't know that they needed to put like a Mexican address instead of a U.S. address, and we were able to figure out certain ways on how to get them certain VA benefits. But basically, we have sometimes service organizations that'll come down here to Tijuana and help us file. We recently connected with CalVets, so if anybody's watching this, CalVets will help you file for your VA benefits regardless of what country you're from, regardless of what state you're from. So you can inbox us and we'll connect you with Elizabeth, and she'll redirect you guys to CalVets. So that just recently we learned of that. And CalVets has basically been assisting veterans abroad, but we didn't really connect the dots. So sometimes it's just figuring out and connecting the dots, and we're able to do that through Elizabeth. So yeah, we are able to help certain vets get, we have anywhere from some getting from $600 a month to some getting $3,000 a month.
Okay. Now, Dr. Hector P. Garcia founded the American GI Forum, and I know Cecilia, his daughter, is still alive and well and active in the state of Texas. What recent American GI Forum event did you attend, and who would you like to give props to?
Sure. So recently I went to the state convention in California, in Lompoc, California, and I was invited by Frederick Romero. And basically, they basically took me in, and they were able to have me speak at this event where there was various members, and just make so many different connections. They also, somebody sponsored me. So Virgil, if you're watching, thank you. So I have a padrino that sponsored me.
Good. And
basically I became a member of the American GI Forum, and they received me very well, and I'm very interested in becoming part of this, an active member of this organization, not just them, but also the American Legion or any other organizations that can join, so we can maybe grow our voice louder for the deported veterans and also for minorities. So I'm going to see what part I can play in. But thanks Commander Romero for inviting me, and all the people that just, they received me extremely well, and yeah, very humble.
Well, those of you who aren't aware of the American GI Forum, Hector P. Garcia was instrumental with regard to Chicano, Mexican American, Latino rights in the military. He was actually in the military when he got the American GI Forum going. In fact, he was at the forefront of a fight in Texas. a Mexican American died in an American war, and there was a cemetery in Texas that did not want to bury this young man in this all-white cemetery. And Hector, he just said, you know what, that's not just, and he fought. So is there anything that you want to say, something in your heart? The audience that's listening, I mean, I know when you got the part, and I could just feel the excitement when I'd see your live videos, and you were just like, you know. I mean, what do you want to share? That's
you know, one of the things that I want, hopefully to happen is that others could share my experience by also coming home, by also being with their family. So I'm going to continue my work, and we need your help. We need your support. You need to call your legislators and try to get these laws changed. We definitely need more support in that area.
Right, especially if you live in the Southwest in a border state. If you could get your congressmen, your senators to contact Hector and Barajas-Varela. You can look him up on Facebook, Hector Barajas-Varela. And let's go ahead and get some more congressional visits his way in Tijuana. He's going to be going to Tijuana a few days a week. He's not going to abandon the ship. He's going to continue to help his comrades. Where can they find you again, and how can they reach you? Your email?
Deported Veteran Support House.org. My email is banishedveteran@yahoo.com, and they can also find us on Facebook as well, Deported Veteran Support House, or connect with you. And again, thanks to the audience. We can't do it without you. We gotta, it's the people, the masses, they're the ones that can make changes happen.
That's going to wrap up our show on the Tequila Onda show, and this is my final program before we go on summer break. We're going to resume the show in September, and so we just want to wish you a happy and safe summer. And thank you again for listening to Frecuencia Alterna. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Go to frecuenciaalterna.com. And again, thank you for listening, and that's a wrap.